Hello, all my book lovers. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going a little dark. You finally convinced me to discuss Deadly Captive. Keep watching.
Do it by the book, no, I do my own thing. That's why every single hook got them singing like me. And I ain't in any rush, cause I'm finally getting paid. Don't believe in any luck, I believe I'm self-made.
So, as you might know, if you've already read it, Deadly Captive is a different kind of book. It's what many consider dark romance, although personally I classify it as horror or maybe dark fantasy. I don't really like the idea of putting it in romance just because of reader expectations. Readers don't mind you pushing them a little bit, dad spanking, St. Andrew's cross, tying somebody up upside down. You know what I'm saying, though, right? Getting a little frisky, a little kinky. Normal romance readers can usually handle that. The type of novel that pushes the limits is a bit different, and there's nothing wrong with not liking it or with really, really being into it. What's curious about dark fantasy is the fact that it involves edgy sex, that it pushes the lines of consent, that there's violence and everything else, often has it criticized. But if you were doing the same exact things in an action novel, in a horror novel, in any other genre, this would just be part of the story. Having the main focus be on sex kind of makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Sex is bad, violence is good. Sex and violence, well, I don't know. The point is, I enjoyed reading dark romance, and one day I ended up meeting Cyrus, as I often meet my characters in my head, often during nightmares, or very, very fun. I met Cyrus before any of the other characters, and Cyrus, as you may or may not know, is one twisted motherfucker. He captures people to have them perform for him and his rich guests. It's actually quite a lucrative business. And the heroine of our first novel and our third ends up being one of those he captures. In her efforts to escape, she damages her mind and loses all her memories. So she's trapped in the arena, put there to perform, without a clue as to how she got there. Starting Deadly Captive, I actually had to, it was almost like method acting. There's a reason why Deadly Captive, the way it begins like that. I didn't want the reader to see or feel or know more than I did, acting out the scene along with Lydia in my head. I wanted it to be just pure feeling. And I think that's one of the things dark fantasy has that you won't find in many other novels. Writing about love and sex, I mean, it's fun, but very rarely do you get that primitive reaction while reading or while writing. You're reading horror, you'll go through the scene getting that chill up the back of your spine, and you'll be looking around you for days, sometimes weeks after, wondering, even though you know there's nothing there, part of you will feel that same fear that was driven into you. And usually you don't get that. You might think back on a hero and be like, God, he was hot. Oh my God, that scene, it gets you feeling a bit, but that nightmare of being trapped of losing all your choices, this is a completely different level. And I always wanted to get the story across in that way. I love having a reader truly live the story. And so it changes them a little bit. And Deadly Captive definitely ended up one of those books. It's still my best-selling book. Long after I couldn't write it anymore for my own mental well-being, people were begging for the last bit of it. And it took a long time to get myself into the space where I could reach that deep, dark part of myself where characters like Cyrus live. But I was finally able to do it, and it ended up being a pretty cool story. I always get lots and lots of questions about it, and I write books like that especially so much just on instinct, just on listening to the characters, finding that dark place. So I'm not sure how much of it I can explain, but I'm going to do my best. So Deadly Captive was basically me giving you a bit of my dream and my nightmare. The idea of losing my memories, all the experiences I've had, the good ones and the bad ones, all of those make up who you are, but they aren't who you are completely. And if you lost all of those, what kind of survival you would have? Would you be as driven? Would you have the skills or the knowledge to escape a horrible situation? Not everyone would, but Lydia did. She somehow managed to hang on through the absolute worst, and she manages to challenge Cyrus, which I think was the most interesting thing about the entire trilogy, is the fact that she challenged him, and that drew his interest even more. He became obsessed with her because no one had ever done that to him before, and especially not somebody so much weaker than him, somebody who didn't have the experience, who didn't have the knowledge, who didn't have the strength, and she still stood against him. Even when she thought she was going to lose her life, she never really backed down. And she frustrated me, and I admired her, I hated her. Lydia is definitely my most unique heroine, and I don't think I'll ever write another one like her. I'm not sure I want to. My other books aren't competing with Deadly Captive, and they're a bit mentally easier to get into. I don't regret it though. I don't regret writing Deadly Captive. Those stories, they help me express and explore a lot of my own feelings about things. I realize how many people think that even having desires like that, even thinking about lack of consent, rape fantasies, all those things can make people very uncomfortable. And I've been accused of promoting those things. Which is funny because nobody calls Stephen King a serial killer. Nobody thinks that, Dean Koontz must be completely out of his mind. Nobody is looking at George Martin and thinking, wow, he, just wants to watch the world burn. It's quite possible he does, but that's not the point. Male authors, especially, don't tend to deal with the same level of expectations as female authors do, and romance authors seem to, I don't know, the bar is set very high for what we're expected to show people, the appropriateness and the good life lessons that our books are supposed. I'm here to entertain you. I'm here to maybe turn you on a little bit, scare you, make you think. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, to tell you what you should enjoy, what you shouldn't. And I think it's healthy to explore even the most darkest parts of our mind. It doesn't mean that we're going to go out there and hurt anybody. We're not going to become serial killers. We're not going to become killer clowns. I can't speak for all of you, but odds are pretty good you guys aren't going to do that. So it's the same thing with dark fantasy. And I'd like to say that when controversies come up and people start questioning what we're doing with our stories, that we really sit down and think deeply about. No. I've always written for the story. Deadly Captive, Lydia, Cyrus, Daedric, it all came to me and I wrote their story. And I didn't think about the impact it would have. I didn't know how popular it would be at the time. It was just the story that was there that needed to be told. And I told it. And a lot of people liked it and a lot of people hated it. And I spent a lot of time over the years telling people not to read it. I didn't need to push it on anybody that might find the subject matter too difficult. It's not for everybody. But the people it is for, well, there's nothing wrong with us. We just like a different edge to our blade. Some people, the edge that they like is, disasters or epidemics, the end of the world, zombies, vampires, people having sex with different kinds of animals. Well, no, not literal animals, just, the beast or the fishman. I haven't seen that one. I don't plan to. Don't tell anybody because this makes me look really bad. All the cool kids are watching the fish guy. But anyway, so without spoiling this for those of you who haven't read it and might be interesting, Deadly Captive it's fucked up. Don't ignore the warnings. And if you're into the dark stuff, I might have a few recommendations for you. So check these out. So these are my top 3 recommendations of dark reads. The first, I would say, one that I've reread a lot and it's the biggest mindfuck I've ever had, would be Comfort Food by Kitty Thomas. Unlike with most of my recommendations, I am not going to get into what I liked about these books. I think that exploring them too much could take away some of the impact, and these kind of books, the point is the impact. The point is living through some really, really twisted things. So if these are the kind of books that you like, just grab them and, well, sleep with the light on and your vibrator close. Another one is Captive in the Dark by C.J. Roberts. And last but not least, Learning to Drown by Summer Marsden. Some of these you may have already read. Some of these may be too much for you even if you have read Deadly Captive. But if you're looking for something a little different, I definitely recommend all of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. The next video is going to be, well, more along these lines. A lot of you have been asking a lot of questions, and trying to answer them all in one video would not be possible. So I've decided to start doing regular videos covering my books, different characters, and see how that goes while balancing some other stuff about the writing life, tips and tricks for authors, and general stuff that I just like talking about. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of what I've been doing so far, anything that you'd really enjoy hearing more about, any questions you have about Deadly Captive. And the next video is going to be specifically about Dean Richter. That's coming on Thursday. I hope you guys will check it out. And like, subscribe, ring that little bell to be alerted when I've got new videos. Check out the description for all kinds of fun links. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.